scheduled plan, I guess, in terms of how much time you're devoting to, getting the young guys out there, how much time you're using for Western Michigan stuff?
We're spending a lot of time on both. We have tried to go some of our best versus our best to get the tempo up and have our offense, when they're going against our defense, our ones versus ones, passing the ball a little bit more, getting in some of the same formations. We can call some of their offense using our system, so we try to go some best versus best and get some dual work done at that. But we're spending a lot of time on Western Michigan, and then also making sure that we get plenty of reps to the guys that we think can help us in the bowl, or that also need to get some pre-spring work, and then it's going very well.
Now you've had a chance to see Western. What have you seen that they might cause some mismatch problems, and then vice versa, where you might be able to cause some mismatch problems?
Well, obviously I won't get into a whole lot of our game planning, but they have a great offense, and they have their offense figured out. They really understand what they're trying to get done in regards to the spread offense, playing 4 and 5 wide receivers on the field at one time, a lot of empty sets. They do a great job with their empty protection, meaning they only have 5 linemen that they're utilizing in the protection without any help from the backs or the tight ends, and they do a great job getting their inside 5 offensive linemen assigned to the most dangerous 5 guys that are lining up across the defensive front, and their quarterback does a great job with his hot reads and his side adjustments. So it's going to be a real challenge for our defense to defend their spread offense. Obviously, we have to match up. I mean, that we have to get in the right spots coverage-wise and get the right people on the right people, and obviously we'd like to be able to manufacture some pressure. From our offense looking at their defense is a high-pressure defense, meaning they like to bring blitzes, and they do a lot with line movements, and that's always a challenge for our offense. They have a very aggressive defensive line and a couple of top defensive line players, guys that would be top players on anyone's team that we played all year long. So a real challenge for our football team. It should be an exciting game. We went up there the other day to Detroit and had a chance to get down there and look at Ford Field, and it's a fast track, and it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's indoors, so the weather won't be a factor, so it ought to be a heck of a ball game.
Does their offense or defense resemble anyone that you've seen this season at all that you can kind of compare?
Well, their defense, they're similar to Illinois in some ways, not necessarily from a schematic standpoint, but as far as what they like to do, as far as bringing a lot of pressure, and then it comes from everywhere. They do a good job of disguising it so you can't tell exactly where it's coming from, and a lot with line movements to try to slow down your offensive line. So even though it's not the exact same defensive scheme philosophically, they're similar to Illinois in some ways. And then offensively, they're a lot like we were when we were here before, when I coached here from 97 to 2001, when we had Drew Brees and we were throwing the football 40, 50, 60 times a game, similar protection-wise and similar from a master plan standpoint. One back in the backfield, not a whole lot of two-back stuff. But so similar to what we used to do here before, spread offense-wise, and then they present similar challenges that Illinois presents from a defensive standpoint with a lot of pressure and a lot of line movement.
Danny, with the game being on a Tuesday, do you adjust a game week mode, or is it do you adjust the schedule because the game is on a Tuesday?
Well, Tuesday is Saturday, and then Monday's Friday, and we work it back that way. And then 5 days or 6 days prior to the game, we'll try to keep our schedule and our routine almost identical. And then obviously all these practices beforehand gives you a chance to get advanced work on the opponent, and also a lot of reps and a lot of work to the other guys on the team as well.
Danny, I haven't talked to you since Joe Holland went to the banquet in New York City, and then he gets named an academic All-American. Your reaction, just how proud are you of Joe and getting those 2 huge honors?
Well, anytime or anybody that's been around Joe realizes what a special guy he is, and really very proud of Joe. Our whole football team is, and all the Boilermaker Nation should be very proud of him. But when you look at the magnitude of the undertaking, when you look at being a top defensive player in this league and the number of games that he started, the number of tackles that he's made, what he's meant to our football team as a leader and a football player, and to excel like he has from an academic standpoint at an institution like Purdue and the degree program that he's in, it's one heck of an achievement. So really proud of Joe, and he is a real Boilermaker and somebody that we should all be very proud of.
Danny, I can't imagine him making a bad first impression, but how good of a first impression did he make with you when you first met him?
Well, I really didn't know him when I first got here. I was coaching the offensive line. Coach Tiller was still here, and he was a safety, a scrawny safety that we moved down in the box to play linebacker because we didn't have anyone else. But always thought he's a heck of a football player. The last couple of years, he has really grown and developed not only as a football player but as a great leader. and he's someone that everyone on our football team, including myself and the other coaches, really look up to. So we're going to really, really miss Joe Holland. We don't realize how important he's been to our program until now that the season's coming to an end, and you realize he's not going to be back next year. He is an outstanding football player and a great teammate and a great leader to have on your team.
Coach, how does going to a bowl game affect recruiting?
Well, obviously, anytime you have success, that bodes well for the potential of the future. There's a lot of good things that happen this season. It's I think only one other time in the last 8 years have we won more conference games than we won this year. And then we qualified for a number of bowls. And that's exciting. And we, even though we didn't finish up in the upper quartile of the Big Ten, we moved, from the bottom quartile or the bottom third up towards the middle of the pack. So all those things are a good sign for the program. They're all good signs in regards to recruiting. Going to postseason play, allowing you to be one of the few shows on TV that day gives us a captive audience and great exposure. And then we're going to have a lot of fun going to Detroit and playing in this bowl game. And our team's excited about it. And I think the recruits see that as well.
How will you use the game when you recruit in the offseason?
Right now it makes it tough because we're practicing for 3 or 4 days and then recruiting for 3 or 4 days. But obviously, again, it's just the fact that you get the exposure. And when the recruits are coming down on their visit, our players are still here and they're still into football. And then, again, anytime you have success, it's a little easier to sell the product.
Danny, you place such a high priority on academics. First time here that you guys are having practices during finals week. Is this something that the emphasis becomes even more important? And I realize I'm asking this, that you always place an emphasis on it.
Well, again, we have to practice, for the bowl game, and glad that we're in the bowl game, and we're going to have to get ready for the bowl game and do our finals, do well in our finals at the same time. It's one of the reasons why we've only been practicing 3 days a week up to this point in time, is so that the guys can refresh themselves some mentally and physically, get caught up into the book some prior to going into finals. And then we're not practicing very much on Monday and Tuesday. We're going to practice about an hour and 40 minutes on both of those days, and those are very short practices. And then we're wrapping it up at noon, and they have the rest of the day to get their finals done and study and get off their feet some and rest some.
Ricardo has seen a couple pretty good receivers. I shouldn't just say Ricardo. You played against several pretty good receivers this year and potentially another one. How do you think that him and Josh have kind of fared against, Floyd and Jenkins and
Well, anytime you play against great players like that, they're going to make some plays, and obviously those guys have made some plays. A lot of times those guys in the back half, they go as well as the front half goes. And if you can manufacture a pass rush and get their rhythm and their timing out of sync a little bit, that makes a world of difference to the back half. They have a lot of good receivers and a great plan. Their top receiver, he reminds me a lot of Keith Smith. Getting up on him and looking at him physically, he's older and mature, big hands, big wrist. He's probably 6'1" and some change and 200-something pounds, but really reminded me physically of Keith Smith. And as a player, he's a lot like Keith Smith. He's very quick and very sudden and very sure-handed and has great ball skills. So personally, I think he reminds me a lot of Keith Smith, and obviously we'll have to do some things to try to slow him down a little bit because he's a great player.
What benefits have you seen from the extra practices?
Well, I'm glad we're having fun doing it, because you could come out here and practice and the guys not be into it and you wouldn't gain near as much. But I think the fact that we're only practicing 3 days a week and taking 4 days off the last couple of weeks has allowed us to come out here and be a little more physical in practice. And I think we've become a bit more of a physical football team since the end of the last game. A lot of times as the season winds down, you can lose your physicality some. And I think that we've got our butts back in our pants, and we're becoming a more physical football team. I like that part of it. Our guys are into it. They're not burnt out. They're fresh right now mentally and physically. So I think we're practicing better now maybe than we were towards the end of the season. And then again, all those guys that we want to get reps to, guys that can still help us in the bowl that maybe haven't played much this year, or guys that are getting an advanced look and work prior to spring, is huge for our football team. So tons of benefits. But the big thing is they're out here having fun and getting after it and really enjoying it. And sometimes that's not always the case with postseason practices.
You mentioned William as a guy who potentially could play more for you. Obviously did at points during the season. How has he looked last week?
He's done very well. Joe's a good football player, and he's really smart. He's had some opportunities to get in the games throughout the course of the year, and when we put him in the games, he's rose to the occasion, and he's done a good job. So I would anticipate the fact that they spread the field and they throw the ball a lot, that we're going to have to try to keep some fresh defenders in the game, across the line of scrimmage some, and in the back half as well. And Joe fits into that equation along with Taylor Richards and some of the other guys as well.
Obviously, you still have the bowl game left to play, but how do you think the season went?
Well, we had our ups and downs. We started off a little bit slower than I would have liked to. It's the third season in a row that we start the season off with a guy at the quarterback position that hasn't played in the game, for forever. And we started off a little bit slower at the beginning of the season, but I thought that in spite of some of the rough sledding that we had, that our team did a great job of sticking together and finding a way to win. We had some big wins. We were 5-2 in Ross-Ade. Again, we've only, I think, one time in the last 8 years have we won more conference games than we won this year. And then we beat Ohio State again this year. That's 2 times in a row in Ross-Ade. That's never happened in the history of our school. And then we got the Oaken bucket back. That's in the trophy case. The Cannon's in the trophy case. We're going to postseason play. We have a chance to take a big step as a football team. So I think it went well. You always like to have more. But at the end result, it was a good season for us and a big step for our program.
Can you talk about Henry's progression? Where is he injury-wise?
He thinks he's doing just great, but right now he's not clear to do anything. But, Rob's in great shape and really knows how to take care of his body. He's very pleased with how the surgery went and how the rehab has gone. In his mind, he thinks he could go pretty soon. In our minds, he better not. But I think he's in pretty good shape right now.
You'll have him back by spring?
I think so. That'll be the doctor's call, and you never know coming off of an ACL, but he sure is very confident in it right now.
Danny, how are Ralph's spirits? How's he doing personally?
Really well. Surprisingly, a lot better than I would be doing, and probably better than I'm doing. In regards to Ralph, I like Ralph because he's a tough guy, physically and mentally. He really is. He's a great football player. I brought him in the office the other day, really for the first time, to sit down with him, about the injury and where he's at, and he said, "Coach, I want to get ready to play next year." And he didn't bat an eye, and that's what I like about him. I never see Ralph pout or whine or doubt. And when things haven't gone his way, he's buckled up and worked hard, and he bounced back to be a great player off the last knee surgery, and I believe he can do it again. So I think his spirits are really good, and I liked his response when we talked the other day, and I think Ralph can get it done.
Has he had surgery scheduled yet?
Not yet.
Ralph? Okay.
Not that I know of. If they have, they haven't told me.